The conference room aboard the Eternal Accord was massive. Ambassador Chen Wei had seen it before, but the scale still impressed him. The ceiling stretched 30 meters high, decorated with flowing patterns that represented 10,000 years of galactic history. Delegates from 47 species sat in their specialized chairs, breathing different atmospheres through personal shields. Chen stood at the human podium, feeling small. He was the only human in the room. Earth had joined the Galactic Coalition just 23 years ago, and some species here had been traveling the stars for longer than humans had walked upright. The Devourers have taken 3 more colonies, Admiral Korthax announced. The reptilian Vreen commander's scales gleamed under the soft lights. His voice carried the weight of someone who had fought in 100 wars. Theta Station, New Sardinia, and Kelf Prime. 14 million souls consumed in 2 weeks. Murmurs filled the chamber. Chen watched the delegates exchange worried looks. The Devourers were machines, ancient and hungry. They came from beyond the galactic rim and they ate everything. Planets, ships, stations. Nothing organic survived their touch. We must establish the defensive line at the Kepler Nebula, said Ambassador Thelrix, a floating jellyfish-like Delphian. Her translated voice was calm, almost peaceful. Coalition doctrine has protected us for millennia. We fortify, we hold, we outlast. Chen raised his hand. Ambassador, if I may speak. Korthax's eyes narrowed. The human wishes to contribute. Please enlighten us with your species' vast military experience. The sarcasm was thick enough to cut. Chen ignored the tone. He had learned that much in his months dealing with the Coalition. Our tactical analysis suggests a different approach. The Devourers adapt to static defenses. They consumed the Rigel line in 4 days. We should consider offensive strikes, hit their supply chains, disrupt their coordination. Primitive thinking, Korthax said flatly. You suggest we abandon defensive positions to chase shadows? Your species has been in space for barely a century. We have refined warfare into an art form over 10,000 years. With respect, Admiral, maybe that's the problem. The room went silent. Chen could feel 46 species staring at him. He continued anyway. You fight wars like chess games. Calculated moves, acceptable losses, honor and ritual. The Devourers don't care about any of that. They're machines. They calculate efficiency and resource consumption. While you set up your perfect defensive lines, they're already planning 3 moves ahead. A Kresh delegate, looking like a massive insect, clicked his mandibles. The humans suggest we abandon civilization for barbarism. Shall we also eat our dead and paint ourselves with mud? Laughter rippled through the chamber. Chen felt his face burn but held his ground. I'm suggesting we adapt or die. Your perfect strategies keep losing. Enough, Thelrix said gently. We appreciate the human perspective, but Coalition doctrine has succeeded for longer than your species has existed. We will fortify the Kepler Nebula. The matter is settled. Chen sat down frustrated. He caught the eye of a junior Vreen officer near the door. The young soldier looked thoughtful at least. That was something. 3 weeks later, Chen received the emergency summons. He rushed to the command center, his heart pounding. The main display showed a scene from hell. The Kepler Nebula was burning. 200 coalition ships, the finest vessels from a dozen species, were being torn apart. The Devourers moved through them like sharks through fish, their dark ships bristling with cutting beams. Explosions blossomed in silence across the void. They came through the nebula itself, Admiral Korthax said. His voice was hollow. Impossible, our sensors said. No ship can navigate that radiation. But they did it anyway. They were behind our defensive line before we even knew they were there. Chen watched ship after ship die on the screen. Thousands of lives ended with each explosion. The impregnable defense, 10,000 years of military wisdom, was collapsing in hours. Casualties? Someone asked. Total, Korthax said quietly. We're evacuating what we can, but the line is broken. The path to the core worlds is open. The room erupted in panicked voices. Chen noticed Thelrix floating near the window, her bioluminescence dim with shock. The Delphian ambassador seemed to have aged years and minutes. How long until they reach the Tertian sector? Chen asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3 if we're lucky. Korthax replied. 14 billion people in 5 systems. We don't have enough transport ships to evacuate even half. Then we need to buy time. With what? Korthax snapped. Our fleet is scattered, our doctrine is shattered. We need months to reorganize, to adapt our strategies. We have weeks. Chen pulled up his personal display and sent a priority message to Earth. His fingers were steady despite his racing heart. Then let us buy you those months. The humans. Korthax's laugh was bitter. You have what, 50 ships? Primitive designs by our standards. No offense, Ambassador. But what can you possibly contribute against a force that just destroyed 200 of our best? We can be unpredictable, Chen said. We can be aggressive. We can do all the things your perfect doctrine says are foolish. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what you need right now. The reply from Earth came within the hour. Chen read it twice to make sure he understood correctly. The Council has authorized the deployment of Task Force Blackstar, he announced to the assembled delegates. 40 ships under the command of Captain Miranda Volkov. They'll engage the Devourer advance and buy time for the Tertian sector evacuation. 40 ships? The Kresh delegates' mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter or disbelief. Against thousands? This is suicide, not strategy. Maybe, Chen admitted. But better 40 volunteers buying time than 14 billion people with none. Captain Volkov and her crews know what they're signing up for. Admiral Korthax studied Chen for a long moment. Something shifted in the Vreen's eyes. You would sacrifice your ships for people who just mocked your ideas? Yes, why? Chen thought about Earth. About the wars in humanity's past, about all the times people had stood against impossible odds, simply because it was right. Because someone has to. Because 14 billion lives matter more than pride or respect. Because if we're going to be part of this coalition, we need to prove we're worth standing beside. You'll die, Korthax said. Probably, but we'll die making the Devourers pay for every meter of space. We'll die giving those 14 billion people a chance to live. That seems like a fair trade. Thelrix floated closer, her bioluminescence brightening. The Council will remember this, Ambassador Chen. Whatever happens, humanity will be remembered. Chen nodded. We don't want to be remembered. We want those people evacuated and safe. If 40 human ships can buy that, then Captain Volkov and her crews will make it happen. The message he sent to Captain Volkov was simple. The galaxy needs time. Go buy it for them. The reply came back immediately. On our way. We'll make it count. Chen watched the display as 40 human ships began their jump to the Tertian sector. They looked small compared to the massive coalition vessels. Brutal, angular, efficient. No elegant curves or artistic flourishes. Just weapons and engines and armor. The USS Blackstar led them into the dark. Behind her, the galaxy held its breath and waited to see what humanity would do when the odds were impossible, and the cause was just. Chen whispered a prayer to gods he wasn't sure he believed in. Bring them home safe, but he knew they wouldn't be coming home at all. Captain Miranda Volkov stood on the bridge of the USS Blackstar and watched the Tertian sector appear on her screens. 5 star systems, 32 habitable planets, 14 billion people who didn't know they were about to die. Status report, she said. Commander Park looked up from his station. All 40 ships accounted for. Jump drives cooling down. Devourer swarm detected at the edge of the system. Initial count estimates 2,200 vessels. 2,200, Volkov repeated. She didn't let her face show anything, but her stomach tightened. 55 Devourers for every human ship. In any sane universe, this would be called a massacre, not a battle. They're not slowing down, Lieutenant Morrison said from sensors. Heading straight for the inhabited worlds. Estimated contact with the first planet in 48 hours. And the evacuation status? 3% complete. At current rates, they'll save maybe 2 billion before the Devourers arrive. 12 billion dead. Volkov forced herself to think of it as a number, not as 12 billion mothers and fathers and children and dreams. She couldn't afford to think of them as people, not yet. Later, if there was a later, she could cry for them. All ships combat status. Prepare to execute Operation Wildfire. The Coalition liaison officer on her bridge, a young Vreen named Korthas, stepped forward. Captain, I must protest. Coalition doctrine requires we establish a defensive formation and meet the enemy at maximum weapons range. Volkov turned to look at him. Korthas was barely out of the academy, still believing in the rules and honor and all the pretty lies that old soldiers told young ones. She almost envied him. Korthas, your coalition doctrine just got 200 ships destroyed at Kepler. We're not doing doctrine today. We're doing what works. But Captain, we're going to hit them fast, hit them hard, and hit them where it hurts. Then we're going to run away before they can kill us. We'll do it again and again until they get so angry at us that they forget about those planets. We're going to make them chase us. Korthas's scales paled. That's That's not warfare. That's guerrilla tactics. That's terrorism. That's survival, Volkov said. And more importantly, that's time. Every hour the Devourers spend chasing us is another hour those evacuation ships can work. That's hundreds of thousands of lives per hour. So yes, we're going to fight dirty. We're going to fight mean. We're going to do everything your precious doctrine says is wrong. She activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Blackstar Actual. You all know the mission. We are 40 ships against thousands. The odds are terrible and most of us won't see Earth again. But right now, 14 billion people are counting on us to buy them time. So we're going to give them every second we can. Volkov paused, choosing her next words carefully. We're not here to win. We're here to be annoying. We're here to be the mosquito that won't let them sleep. We're here to make them so mad that they forget everything else except killing us. Can you do that? 40 captains responded as one. Yes, ma'am. Then let's go make some noise. Blackstar out. The first strike came 3 hours later. The human task force dropped out of jump space directly inside the Devourer formation. No warning, no hails, no declarations of intent. Just sudden, brutal violence. The Blackstar's railguns opened fire immediately. Tungsten rods, each weighing 2 tons, accelerated to 30% of light speed. They hit the Devourer ships like hammers from God. Armor vaporized. Hulls split open. Machines died. Targets destroyed, 9 confirmed, Morrison reported. They're turning to engage. All ships fire and jump. Execute now. The human ships poured fire into the Devourer formation for 20 seconds. Then as one, they jumped away. The Devourer's return fire hit empty space. Volkov allowed herself a small smile. Casualties? None. All ships reported successful jump. Good. Set up for strike 2. Different angle, different target area. Let's keep them guessing. Korthus was staring at his console in disbelief. You just appeared inside their formation. That's impossible. Collision calculations alone make jump accuracy that precise mathematically unfeasible. For coalition jump drives, maybe, Commander Park said. Our drives are different. We don't spend 10,000 years perfecting things. We spend 10 years making them good enough and then we use them. The second strike came 30 minutes later. This time, the Blackstar task force targeted the Devourer resource processors. The ships that broke down consumed matter into usable materials. 3 were destroyed before the humans jumped away again. The third strike hit their scout ships. The fourth hit their engineering vessels. The fifth strike targeted anything that looked important. By the 8th strike, the Devourers changed their formation. They spread out, trying to prevent the humans from hitting multiple targets at once. It didn't help. The human ships just picked different targets and jumped away again. They're adapting, Morrison said after the 12th strike. Sensor patterns show they're predicting our jump coordinates. Of course they are. They're machines. They learn. Volkov studied the tactical display. The Devourers had stopped advancing toward the planets. They were hunting her task force now, sending out search patterns and attack groups. It was working. The mosquito had their attention. All ships spread formation. No more group strikes. Each ship picks its own targets, its own timing. Make them chase all of us, not just one formation. Over the next week, the battle became a deadly game of cat and mouse spread across the entire sector. Human ships appeared, fired, and vanished. The Devourers tried to predict them, tried to trap them, tried to ignore them and continued toward the planets. But every time they turned toward the inhabited worlds, a human ship would appear and destroy something important. A command node, a processing ship, a communications relay. The Devourers couldn't ignore them and they couldn't catch them. The cost was terrible. On day 3, the destroyer Valiant mistimed her jump and was caught in a crossfire. 300 souls lost in seconds. On day 5, the cruiser Defiant suffered engine damage and couldn't jump away. She held off 40 Devourer ships for 6 minutes before she died. Every day, Volkov recorded messages to the families. 300 messages for the Valiant, 280 for the Defiant. She sat in her quarters after each battle and forced herself to write personal words for each person who died under her command. Commander Sarah Kim, you gave your life buying time for billions. Your daughter will know you were a hero. Lieutenant James Rodriguez, you kept your ship fighting until the last second. Your parents will know you died with honor. 300 messages, then 280 more, then another 140 when the Resolute died on day 7. By day 14, only 23 human ships remained. But the Tertian sector evacuation was at 60%. 8 billion people were safe. 6 billion still waited, Captain, Morrison said quietly. I'm picking up a new signature. Something big just entered the sector. Volkov felt her blood run cold. On the display, a new icon appeared. It was massive, the size of a small moon. Identification? Matching it against intelligence files. Captain, I think that's the Endless Hunger. Devour Mothership class. It coordinates their entire swarm. Volkov stared at the icon. This was the thing that controlled every devourer in the sector. Kill it and the swarm would collapse, but it was surrounded by hundreds of escort ships and more were joining it every minute. Get me a secure channel to Ambassador Chen, she said. Chen's face appeared on her screen minutes later. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept in weeks. Captain Volkov, we've been watching. 14 days and you're still fighting. Nobody expected that. We've lost 17 ships, Ambassador. Over 4,000 people, I know. And because of them, 8 billion civilians are safe. The evacuation is ahead of schedule now. Another week and we'll have everyone. We don't have another week, Volkov said. The mothership is here. If we don't kill it, the devourers will adapt enough to catch us. This guerrilla war ends soon, one way or another. Chen was quiet for a moment. What do you need? I need you to tell Command that I'm going to try something desperate. I'm going to kill that mothership. How? Volkov smiled, and it wasn't a happy expression. By doing what we do best. By being unpredictable, aggressive, and just crazy enough to try the impossible. Volkov out, she turned to her bridge crew. They were exhausted, all of them. 14 days of constant battle with no rest, but they met her eyes without flinching. We have a new target, she said. The biggest, nastiest thing in this sector. Who wants to help me kill a mothership? Commander Park grinned. Do we even need to ask? The planning took 6 hours. 6 hours while the Endless Hunger organized the Devourer swarm into something more efficient, more deadly. 6 hours while more human ships died buying time. The Constellation went down fighting 3 hours into planning. The Hammer lasted 4 hours before she burned. 21 ships left now. Captain Volkov stood in the briefing room with her remaining commanders. Their faces showed on screens around the table, broadcasting from ships scattered across the sector. They all looked tired. They all looked determined. Operation Prometheus, Volkov said, pulling up the tactical display. Named after the guy who stole fire from the gods and paid for it. Seemed fitting. Captain Sarah Torres of the Hurricane laughed darkly. What are we stealing this time? Their coordination, their command, their ability to think as one mind. We're going to kill the Endless Hunger and scatter the swarm. Volkov highlighted the mothership on the display. Intel says it's surrounded by approximately 800 escort vessels. More are joining every hour. 800, someone muttered. Against 21 ships. Against one ship, Volkov corrected. The Blackstar goes in alone. The rest of you create a diversion. Pull as many escorts away as possible. Make them think you're going for the inhabited worlds again. Captain Marcus Chen of the Tempest shook his head. Miranda, that's suicide. Even if we pull away half the escorts, you're still going up against 400 ships alone. That's the plan. Then it's a bad plan. It's the only plan we have, Volkov said firmly. The Blackstar has the heaviest armor and the best combat jump drives. If anyone can punch through to the mothership, it's us. And we have something special. Engineering has been working on it since we left Earth. She pulled up a new schematic. This is a stellar compression device. Basically, we take a star's core collapse and put it in a bottle. The blast radius is 1 light minute. Everything inside that radius dies. The room went silent. Finally, Torres spoke. That's a war crime weapon. Against people, yes. Against machines that eat planets? I'll sleep fine. You won't sleep at all, Captain James Park of the Vigilant said, because you can't escape that blast radius. The Blackstar's jump drives need 18 seconds to recharge in combat conditions. The blast expands at near light speed. You'd need to be gone the instant you trigger it. Volkov met his eyes. I know, another silence. Commander Park, still on the Blackstar's bridge, spoke through her personal comm. Captain, the crew knows. We all know. We volunteered anyway. Miranda, no, Torres said. There has to be another way. There isn't. 21 ships can't win against thousands. But one ship with the right weapon in the right place, that can change everything. That can save 6 billion people who are still waiting for evacuation. Volkov looked at each face on the screens. These were her friends, her fellow captains, people she'd trained with and fought beside. Your job is to keep them chasing you for another week. Keep hitting them, keep running, keep those evacuation ships safe. When the mothership dies, the swarm will scatter. You hunt down the pieces, and you'll be dead, Chen said flatly. Yes, me and my crew. 300 volunteers who knew what they were signing up for. Volkov felt a strange calm settle over her. It's a fair trade. 300 for 6 billion. The math works. Torres wiped her eyes. The math doesn't account for friends. No, it doesn't. But it accounts for children who get to grow up, for families who get to stay together, for billions of people who get to see tomorrow. That's worth the cost. The operation began at dawn, though dawn was meaningless in space. The remaining human ships split into attack groups and hit the Devourer swarm from 6 directions at once. They targeted escorts, command ships, anything that looked important. The Devourers responded exactly as predicted. Hundreds of ships broke away from the endless hunger to hunt the humans. The perfect defensive formation collapsed into chaos. The Blackstar waited in the shadow of a dead moon, watching. Escort count down to 420, Morrison reported. Still too many. It'll have to do, Volkov said. Helm, plot a course straight through them. Full combat speed, all weapons free. Captain, Korthus said. The young Vreen had stayed on the Blackstar's bridge, refusing to transfer away. My people will remember this. What you're doing here. The Coalition will remember. Tell them to remember the other ships, too. Tell them to remember all the people who died buying time. Not just us, I will. I promise, Volkov nodded. Then find an escape pod and get out. This isn't your fight. With respect, Captain, it became my fight the moment I saw what real courage looks like. I'm staying, she didn't argue. There wasn't time. All hands, this is the captain. We're going in. Shields to maximum, weapons hot. We're going to punch through 400 ships and deliver a message to the endless hunger. Make every shot count. The Blackstar accelerated out of the moon's shadow like a bullet. Her engines burned at 110%. Overheating, straining, pushing the ship to speeds that made Coalition engineers weep. The first Devourer escorts opened fire at maximum range. Energy beams splashed against the Blackstar's shields. Kinetic rounds bounced off her armor. She returned fire with her railguns and 3 escorts vanished in expanding clouds of debris. Shield strength at 80%. Park reported calmly. Armor holding. Engineering, I need jump drives online in 12 seconds from my mark, not 18. Make it happen. Captain, the drives aren't rated for that. I don't care what they're rated for. I care what they can do. 12 seconds. Figure it out. The Blackstar plowed into the escort formation like a knife through butter. Her guns fired continuously, a storm of tungsten death. Devourer ships exploded around her. Some tried to ram her. She dodged what she could and shot the rest. Jump drives operational. Modifications complete. We can do 12-second cycles, engineering reported. But Captain, we can only maintain that for 4, maybe 5 jumps before the drives burn out. 5 jumps? I only need 1. Volkov studied the tactical display. The endless hunger was 3 light seconds away, surrounded by its remaining escorts. Prepare for combat jump. Target coordinates directly beneath the mothership. Beneath? Morrison looked confused.
Why beneath?
Because they'll expect us to come at them head on. We're going to come up through their blind spot. The Blackstar jumped. Space twisted, reality bent, and suddenly they were underneath a moon-sized ship. The endless hunger loomed above them, so massive it blocked out the stars. Fire everything, Volkov ordered. The Blackstar's railguns hammered the mothership's underbelly. Armor designed to withstand energy weapons cracked under kinetic bombardment. The ship was tough, incredibly tough, but the Blackstar was firing at point-blank range. Return fire incoming, Park said. Brace for impact. The endless hunger's weapons were designed to destroy fleets, not single ships. But it only needed to hit once. A cutting beam sliced through the Blackstar's port side, venting 3 decks to space. Alarm screamed. Hull breach sections 12 through 15. Sealing bulkheads, casualties. 30 confirmed dead. 30 people. 30 names for messages she'd never get to write. Volkov pushed the grief down and focused. Engineering. Arm the stellar compression device. Manual deployment. Captain, manual deployment means someone has to carry it into position. I know. I'm going. Miranda, no, Park said. Let me. You need to command the ship. The ship is dying, Park. Look at the damage reports. We're not jumping away from this. The drives are gone, engines are failing, we're dead in space. Volkov pulled up the damage control screens. He was right. The Blackstar had maybe minutes left. Someone needs to get that device close enough to guarantee detonation inside the endless hunger. That's my job. She stood up and headed for the airlock. You have command, Commander Park. When I signal, trigger the device. Don't wait, don't hesitate, just do it. Captain, that's an order. Volkov suited up in the airlock, mag-locking the stellar compression device to her back. It was heavy, about 50 kilos. Fitting that the thing that would kill her was such a burden. She cycled the airlock and stepped into space. The endless hunger stretched above her, impossibly vast. Its hull was scarred from the Blackstar's attack, but it was still functional, still coordinating the swarm. She activated her suit thrusters and began the short journey up. Energy beams crisscrossed the space around her, but the mothership's weapons couldn't target something as small as a person. She was invisible to their sensors. It took 3 minutes to reach a hull breach the Blackstar had created. Volkov pulled herself inside into corridors designed for machines, not people. The interior was dark, lit only by her suit lights. She moved deeper, following the structural layout Morrison had provided. The central processing core was 500 meters in. She ran, checking her oxygen levels. 15 minutes left. More than enough. The core was massive, a sphere of processing power that hummed with energy. Volkov placed the device against it, armed the trigger, and activated her comm. Park. Device is in position. Trigger on my mark. You have maybe 3 minutes before I lose consciousness from oxygen depletion. Don't wait for me. Captain, we can't. Yes, you can. 300 lives for 6 billion. It's still a fair trade even if I'm one of the 300. Volkov smiled even though no one could see her face. Tell Torres she's in command of the task force now. Commander Park stared at the trigger control. His hand hovered over it, shaking. 300 lives on this ship. Captain Volkov inside the mothership. One button press and they all died, sir, Morrison said quietly. The captain gave an order. I know what she ordered. Park's voice was rough. He'd served with Miranda Volkov for 8 years. They'd been through the Belt Wars together, survived battles that should have killed them both. She'd been at his wedding. He'd been at her promotion ceremony. Now he had to kill her. Engineering, how long until the stellar compression device detonates after trigger? 30 seconds, sir. Then the blast expands at 90% light speed. Blast radius of 1 light minute means everything within 60 million kilometers dies. Park pulled up the tactical display. The other human ships were scattered across the sector. The closest was 2 light minutes away. They'd survive. The Devourer swarm was mostly within the blast radius. They wouldn't. Neither would the Blackstar. All hands, this is Commander Park. In 30 seconds, this ship will be destroyed. It's been an honor serving with you. Make peace with whatever gods you believe in. He pressed the trigger. Inside the endless hunger, the stellar compression device began its work. It took matter and crushed it, compressed it, forced it into a space smaller than an atom. Physics screamed in protest. Reality bent. And then, like a star being born, it exploded. The light was blinding. The sensors on the surviving human ships automatically filtered it, but the crews still saw it. A new sun bloomed in the darkness, expanding faster than thought. The endless hunger vanished first, its moon-sized bulk consumed in an instant. The Devourer escorts followed. Hundreds of ships erased from existence. The blast wave spread outward, beautiful and terrible. The Blackstar tried to turn away. Her engines fired one last time, pushing the wounded ship as fast as she could go. It wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. The wave caught her 3 seconds after detonation. The ship's shields held for a fraction of a second, then failed. The armor lasted longer, 2 whole seconds. Then it melted. Then the ship itself turned to vapor. 300 souls ended in light. On the bridge of the Hurricane, Captain Torres watched through tears. All ships sound off. One by one, the surviving human ships reported in. 19 voices. 19 ships out of 40. Just over 5,000 people left from the 12,000 who'd started this mission. The swarm is scattering, her sensor officer reported. Without the mothership, they're breaking into individual units. They're running. Torres wiped her eyes and forced steel into her voice. Then we hunt them. Every last one. For the Blackstar. For the captain. For all the people we lost. Captain, I'm picking up new signatures. Multiple jump points opening. Torres tensed. More Devourers? They couldn't handle more, not with only 19 ships, but the signatures were wrong. These were coalition vessels, and there were dozens of them. Torres watched in shock as 17 coalition ships emerged from jump space. She recognized the design of the lead vessel immediately. This is Admiral Korthax of the Vreen Dreadnought Unyielding Dawn, a familiar voice announced. Captain Torres, we're here to assist. Admiral. Torres couldn't believe it. You're supposed to be reorganizing the defense fleets. We were. Then we watched Captain Volkov's attack on our sensors. We watched her go into that mothership. We watched... Korthax's voice caught. We watched her die. No one fights alone today, Captain. That's something we learned from you humans. Admiral, there are still Devourer ships scattered throughout the sector. Hundreds of them. Then we hunt them together. My ships will follow your tactics. Teach us to fight like humans. Torres felt something warm spread through her chest. Hope, maybe. Pride, definitely. All human and coalition vessels, this is Torres. New mission parameters. We break into mixed groups, human and coalition ships together. We teach each other. Then we end this swarm once and for all. The next 6 days were a masterclass in cooperation. Human captains taught coalition officers about aggressive tactics, combat jumps, and fighting without a safety net. Coalition officers taught humans about shield harmonics, energy weapons, and the advantage of experience. They hunted the Devourers through asteroid fields and nebulae. They cornered them at gas giants and destroyed them near dying stars. Every coalition captain who flew with the humans came away changed, seeing warfare in a new way. On day 21 of the operation, the last Devourer ship died. Captain Torres stood on her bridge and felt the weight of 3 weeks crash down on her. They'd done it. They'd saved 14 billion people. The cost had been terrible. 21 human ships lost, 6,300 people dead. But the Tertian sector was safe. The evacuation was complete. The Devourers were scattered. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Tertian sector. It's Ambassador Chen. Chen's face appeared on screen. He looked older than Torres remembered. Captain Torres, the Coalition Council has requested your presence. All surviving human captains, actually. They want to meet with you. Are we in trouble, Ambassador? No, you're going to be honored. The Council wants to thank you personally for what you've done. They want to... Chen paused, seeming to search for words. They want to understand how you did it. 21 ships holding off thousands. One ship killing a mothership. They've never seen anything like it. Torres thought about Captain Volkov, about her final words, about 300 people who chose death so billions could live. Tell the Council we'll come, but we're bringing something with us. What's that? Wreckage from the Blackstar. We found pieces near the blast site. Not much, but enough. They deserve to be remembered. 3 days later, the human captain stood before the Coalition Council. The massive chamber was packed. Every delegate wanted to see the humans who'd changed everything. Ambassador Chen presented them. The heroes of the Tertian sector. 19 ships led by Captain Sarah Torres of the Hurricane. They fought for 3 weeks against impossible odds. They lost 21 ships, over 6,000 people. They saved 14 billion lives. The council chamber erupted in applause. It was shocking, actually. Torres had never heard alien species applaud before. Some clapped, some clicked mandibles, some hummed, but they all expressed the same thing, respect. Admiral Korthax stepped forward. His scales seemed to shine brighter than before. Captain Torres, the Coalition wishes to honor the human vessels and crews who fought in this battle. We wish especially to honor Captain Miranda Volkov and the crew of the USS Blackstar. He gestured, and a hologram appeared. It showed the Blackstar's final moments, her hull glowing as she tried to outrun the blast. It showed her death in brilliant light. For 10,000 years, the Coalition has fought wars according to doctrine. We emphasize defense, calculation, acceptable losses. We fought wars like chess games. Korthax's voice grew stronger. Captain Volkov taught us that some things cannot be calculated. Courage cannot be predicted. Sacrifice cannot be programmed. 300 humans chose certain death so billions of strangers could live. He pulled out a piece of metal, scarred and melted. This is from the Blackstar's hull. We found it at the edge of the blast zone. We wish to build a memorial, the largest the Coalition has ever constructed. We wish to place this wreckage at its heart, so future generations remember the price of peace. Torres felt tears on her face. The Council honors us, Admiral. But there were other ships, other crews. The Valiant, the Defiant, the Resolute. 21 ships in total. They all deserve to be remembered. They will be, Ambassador Thelrick said, floating forward. Her bioluminescence pulsed gently. Every ship, every name, every person who fought here will be recorded. But the Blackstar did something special. Captain Volkov showed us what humanity truly means. Not aggression, not violence, but sacrifice for others. Torres looked at the other human captains. They stood tall, proud, exhausted. Captain Volkov said something to me once. She said, "We're not here to be remembered. We're here to make sure others survive to remember. If you build this memorial, make sure it teaches that lesson. Make sure it tells future generations that some things are worth any cost." Korthax nodded slowly. "It will. And Captain Torres, the Council wishes to make another announcement. Human tactical doctrine is being integrated into Coalition military training. Human advisors will be assigned to every fleet. Your species has been in the Coalition for 23 years, but today you became its protectors. We're not trying to replace anyone, Admiral. You're not replacing. You're teaching. For 10,000 years, we've forgotten what real courage looks like. You reminded us." Korthax approached Torres and placed his hand over his heart in a Vreen gesture of deepest respect. "Thank you. From all of us, thank you." The council session ended with a standing ovation that lasted 10 minutes. Torres and her captain stood there uncomfortable with the attention, wishing they could share it with all the people who died. Later, in a quiet moment, Torres recorded a message to Captain Volkov's family. She'd written thousands of these during the battle, but this one was hardest. "Mrs. Volkov, your daughter saved 14 billion people. She led 40 ships into impossible odds and bought time with her life. The galaxy will remember her forever. But I wanted you to know something personal. In those final moments, facing certain death." 1 year after the Battle of the Tertian Sector, the memorial was complete. It stood at the exact coordinates where the endless hunger had died, where Captain Volkov and 300 souls had become light. The structure was massive. It could be seen from light years away, a monument that defied physics. Coalition engineers from 47 species had worked together to build it. The central chamber was a kilometer wide, its walls made of transparent crystal that showed the stars beyond. At the heart of it all, suspended in a gravity field, was the wreckage from the Blackstar. Her nameplate scarred by fire and blast, a piece of her hull melted but recognizable, a fragment of her bridge, where Commander Park had pressed the trigger that killed them all. Around the central chamber, holographic displays showed all 21 ships that had been lost. The Valiant, the Defiant, the Resolute. Each ship had its own memorial. Each crew member had their name recorded, their face shown, their story told. Ambassador Chen stood in the chamber with a crowd of thousands. Humans, Vreen, Delphians, Kresh, every species of the Coalition had sent representatives. The families of the fallen stood in a place of honor. Humans who'd traveled from Earth to see where their children, parents and friends had died. 1 year ago, Chen said, his voice carrying through the chamber, 40 human ships entered the Tertian sector. The odds were terrible. The mission was impossible. Nobody expected them to succeed. He looked at the wreckage of the Blackstar, feeling the weight of memory. They didn't succeed through superior technology or overwhelming force. They succeeded through sacrifice, through courage, through a willingness to pay any price so others could live. Chen activated a hologram. It showed Captain Volkov recorded from her file image. She looked stern, professional, every inch the warrior. Captain Miranda Volkov was 42 years old when she died. She'd served in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years. She had a daughter on Earth, a sister in the colonies, and a mother who still waited for messages that would never come. The hologram shifted, showing the Blackstar's final moments. The attack on the endless hunger, the blast, the light. She gave her life and the lives of her crew to save 14 billion people she'd never met. People of species she'd barely known existed a month before. She didn't do it for glory. She didn't do it for recognition. She did it because it was right. Chen looked at the families. Many were crying. The Coalition wants to remember the Blackstar as a symbol of humanity's courage. But I think Captain Volkov would want something different. She would want us to remember all the ships, all the crews, all the people who fought here. She would want us to remember that courage belongs to everyone willing to pay its price. Admiral Korthax stepped forward. The Vreen commander had changed over the past year. He'd flown with human captains, learned their tactics, studied their history. The Coalition fought wars for 10,000 years. We won most of them. We thought we understood warfare. He gestured to the memorial. We understood nothing. We thought war was about calculations and formations, about acceptable losses and strategic positions. Then the humans showed us something different. They showed us war at its most basic level. One group of people willing to die so another group can live. Korthax pulled out a data pad. Human tactical doctrine has been integrated into Coalition training. In the past year, we've defeated 3 Devourer incursions using human tactics, 0 civilian casualties, minimal military losses. The effectiveness is remarkable. He looked at the human captains present, Torres Chen Park, the survivors who'd kept fighting after the Blackstar fell. But tactics are not the lesson. Any species can learn to fight aggressively. The real lesson is about values, about what we're willing to sacrifice for others. Ambassador Thelrix floated forward, her bioluminescence pulsing softly. The coalition has existed for 10,000 years. In that time, we've seen many acts of courage. But we've never seen anything like what happened here. 21 ships holding off thousands, one ship killing a mothership from the inside, 300 souls choosing certain death. She paused as if gathering her thoughts. The question we must ask is why? Why would humans do this? They were the newest members of the coalition. They'd been dismissed, mocked, called primitives. Yet when the crisis came, they didn't hesitate. Thelrix looked at Chen. I asked Ambassador Chen this question. He told me something I'll never forget. He said humans have a saying, no one gets left behind. It's not just about soldiers. It's about anyone who needs help. Humans will cross galaxies, face impossible odds, even die, rather than abandon someone in need. She turned to the memorial. The Blackstar didn't leave 14 billion people behind. Captain Volkov didn't abandon them to the Devourers. She and her crew paid the ultimate price to ensure those people survived. That is the lesson of this memorial. Not tactics, not weapons, not technology. The lesson is that some things are worth any sacrifice. The ceremony continued for hours. Each ship was honored, each crew remembered. Families told stories of their lost loved ones. Coalition delegates spoke about how the battle had changed their understanding of warfare and sacrifice. As the ceremony ended, Chen found himself standing alone before the Blackstar's wreckage. He reached out, not quite touching the melted metal, and whispered, "You changed everything, Miranda. The whole galaxy is different because of what you did." Ambassador Chen? Chen turned to find a young woman, maybe 25, with Volkov's eyes. "You must be Sarah, Captain Volkov's daughter." "Yes, sir." She looked at the wreckage with a mixture of pride and grief. "I wanted to thank you for this memorial, for remembering my mother and her crew. Your mother saved billions of lives. The least we could do is remember her." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "She sent me a message before the mission. I didn't receive it until after she died. She said she knew the odds were terrible, but someone had to buy time for the evacuation. She said she was proud to do it. She was an extraordinary person. She was my mom," Sarah said simply. "She taught me to do what's right even when it's hard, even when it costs everything. I guess she lived by that belief." Chen put a hand on her shoulder. "She did. And because of her, 14 billion people got to live. Billions of families stayed together. Children grew up who would have died. That's her legacy." Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. "The coalition wants to name the new flagship after her. The CFS Miranda Volkov. They asked me to christen it. Will you do it?" "Yes, because she'd want me to carry on. She'd want all of us to remember why she fought, not for glory or recognition, but because it was right." 10 years after the Battle of the Tertian Sector, the memorial had become one of the most visited sites in the galaxy. Millions came each year to see the wreckage, to walk through the holographic displays, to learn about the ships and crews that had changed everything. The Stellar Naval Academy made the memorial a required visit for all cadets. They studied the battle, analyzed the tactics, learned the names of everyone who'd died. But more importantly, they learned about sacrifice, about courage, about fighting for others. In the Academy's main lecture hall, a grizzled human instructor stood before a class of mixed-species cadets. Commander James Park, formerly of the Blackstar, now taught tactics and strategy. He'd survived the battle because Captain Volkov had ordered him to take command. He'd spent the last 10 years making sure her sacrifice wasn't forgotten. "Today we study the Battle of the Tertian Sector," he said, pulling up the tactical display. 40 human ships against over 2,000 Devourers. 21 days of constant combat. 21 ships lost, including the USS Blackstar. A young Vreen cadet raised her hand. "Commander Park, the tactics used were highly aggressive and resulted in significant casualties. By standard coalition doctrine, such losses would be considered unacceptable. Why is this battle celebrated?" Park smiled. "It was a good question. Cadet Korthus, yes, you're Admiral Korthax's granddaughter, I can tell by your scales. You're right that the casualties were heavy. 6,300 people died in those 21 days. That's a terrible loss. He pulled up images of the 14 billion evacuees. But these people lived. 14 billion souls who would have been consumed by the devourers. The math is simple. 6,000 deaths versus 14 billion lives. Captain Volkov and her crews understood that math and accepted it. Another cadet, a human, spoke up. "Sir, you were on the Blackstar. You pressed the trigger that killed the ship. How do you live with that?" Park was quiet for a long moment. "By remembering why we did it. By making sure those 6,000 deaths meant something. By teaching future officers like you to make the hard choices when necessary." He pulled up Captain Volkov's final transmission. Her voice filled the room. 300 lives for 6 billion. It's still a fair trade even if I'm one of the 300. Captain Volkov knew she was going to die, Park said. She knew her entire crew would die. But she also knew that if she didn't act, billions would die instead. That's what command means. That's what sacrifice means. Making the hard choice because it's the right choice. A Delphian cadet's bioluminescence flickered with curiosity. "Commander, the Devourers have not launched a major attack since this battle." "Why?" "Because we changed the rules," Park said.